Hey guys, Alex Fedotoff here. Today we have an amazing guest, Salif. Salif is operating an agency that pretty much sources on a scale direct response UGC content that converts and drives sales. And today we will learn more about his process. Thank you, Salif, for joining me.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Alex. Really excited to share with everybody like our process when it comes to creatives. So maybe just to give you guys like a quick background about our agency. So we are a performance creative agency that produces direct response ads and landing pages for 7, 8, and 9-figure D2C brands. We have clients spending as low as 50K a month and up to 1 million plus a month on paid. And yeah, we are specialized in direct response marketing. So everything we produce is direct response, and we take care of the end-to-end. It's kind of like a white glove creative strategy for our clients. So coming in, taking care of the sourcing of the creators, doing the scripting. When it comes to UGC, the production, post-production, and just delivering to them these assets that they can test, right? So I guess the first part to start is just to kind of walk you through, guys, the entire process end to end, and then we can dive into each component, and I can break it down at a more granular level. And as you said, as we all know, creative is kind of the biggest lever nowadays in terms of like really driving growth for D2C brands, incremental growth. The media buying is becoming less and less relevant with all the new optimizations, like Facebook getting more smart and AI as well. So that's why creative is really the most important part, and the part where like really focus the most for our clients. And I think the premise would be to explain that our team. The way we structure our creative team is that every person has a specific role. So, for example, we don't make our creators do the editing. We don't make the creators script the video. Everybody has a specific role. It's kind of like a mini movie production where there's like the strategist that only does the strategy, scriptwriter only writes the script, the creator only shoots the content, and then the editor only does the editing, right? So the first step that we go through when we start working with a new brand to develop their creative strategy is obviously the research phase, which is the most important one. And we spend, I would say, 60% of the success of our creators really comes from the research. And there's three main areas that we look at. The first is doing like a brand analysis, looking at the brand, the product, the audience, and doing like an offer deep dive. And to show you guys a bit more specifically what that looks like. This is basically done by our, creative strategist. The client fills out an onboarding process, and then just we dive into everything, right? So we break down the customer research, the target demographic, the age, gender, location, economics, right? The target psychographics, which is the desires and the fears, exactly what moves the needle for them, what makes them purchase, and we break it down. Obviously the sex, the persona, to really figure out who we are targeting, how we need to speak to the audience in the ads, and that's only one of the parts, right? So first, really understanding the customer research. So to do that, we also use AI to scan through a ton of reviews, which allow us to come up with angles and stuff. And we look at the pain points. So in this case, this is for a puzzle brand that we work with. There were limited options for jigsaw puzzles. Coming up with different pain points. And again, this is done solely by our creative strategist, right? This is not the script writers doing this. This is not the creators. Only the strategists, their only purpose is really like, coming up with the angles and like leading the strategy. So that's the first step. Looking at the customer research. Another thing that we also look at, that is the second part of the research phase, is the brand research. So this might seem like a boring part, where it's like the research, but it's really what drives the results. Because the big misconception is that people says you need to create ads that don't look like ads, or like create TikToks, don't create ads. But the reality is that for most brands out there, putting forward visuals and like the organic feel limits scalability, because at the end of the day, consumers are being bombarded with ads on a daily basis, right? So you're not going to trick them into buying your products because they fit, your ads fit well within their feed. You need to have certain direct response and like sales elements within your creators. Obviously, there's like a right and wrong way to do it, but by going through this research phase, you really understand how to speak to the consumer and make them purchase, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about presenting a solution to a problem they have and making them convert. So so this is like the second phase, going through the brand analysis. Obviously this also comes from the onboarding process that the client fills out. So they give us already some ideas on what to start. But we do a very thorough like research also about the product. which is what most brands skip, right? So we look at the features, the benefits, you know, longer benefits, and you know, we also look at the reviews, right? What people talks about that specific product. So as you can see, it's a very thorough research, and that's only the first step. And this typically takes us 7 days. So yeah, the second step is again after we have the research ready, right? So everything that I talked about, looking at the brand, the product, audience, existing data as well. So looking at the ad account and coming up, looking at what has worked for the brand, right? So if a brand, we start working with a brand, they're already testing a ton of UGC, they have a ton of data. We don't want to just like focus on new angles. Maybe what we can do to improve performance is just iterate on some of the winning creatives, and that might be enough to like scale them up, right? We don't need to like always test new angles, right? So we look at the data and then look at also the competition. And most agencies do. They only focus on like the competition and the brand, and they're not really looking at the previous data, which is like extremely important, right? Looking at, you know, if you're obviously doing broad targeting, looking at where, you know, Facebook is spending most of the money, like, you know, the spend by demographic, spend by placements, right? So to understand like what audience we can, you know, focus the creators on the most. So that's the first step. They're doing the research. Second step is the angle creation, which is the most fun part. So extrapolating the angles based on that research. We call it hypothesis, and this is basically the marketing angles. So there's a few ways we do it. The first one is expanding on existing winning angles. So we see that the client has typically, once we start with a client, we see that they have like, you know, 2 to 3 winning creators that are driving the ad account, because that's the reality of it. Like, you really want to find the winning creators that can drive majority of the revenue. Because I'm sure that even like everybody watching this, they can open up the ad account and they will see that there's like 10 to 15% of all the ads they're running driving like 90% of revenue. So we look at like the winning angles, and you know, we see if we can expand on those, or we create new angles based on the competition and the previous data. We see that the competition is testing an angle that we like. You know, let's test it out as well, right? Another thing is creating fresh, original angles that have never been tested, and that's the thing that most people don't do. Most people only look at trying to emulate stuff, like just like copy other people, like copy the big brands. But by doing so, you're not really innovating, right? You can't really like, you know, scale, find new winning angles, and that's, you know, we always try to test at least one winning angle, right? Once we start working with a client, and yeah, and the last part is creative strategists finalizing the angles, sharing them with the brand team. And then once they are approved, we assign a script writer. So in this case, you know, we share something like this with the client. So description of the angle, the hypothesis, the demographic that we are targeting. So in this case is male, female mix, 35 to 45. You know, they're struggling to lose weight. They try multiple diets, but they can't see the desired results. And on-ramp ideas, I mean, this is a bit more like advanced stuff, which the on-ramp is basically the first part of the, because you know, I don't want to go too specific, but I think it's cool to explain. So there's like something we call on-ramp and off-ramp. The on-ramp is the first part of the video in which you will talk about the angle, get their attention, and the off-ramp is typically the benefits, the features, which don't really change as much no matter all the creatives you're testing, right? Because the benefits for a product will be the same, so there's not much you can change. But in the on-ramp, on the other end, which is the first part, the way you hook them in, the way you present the problem, like you build a story, that always changes a lot. So the on-ramp ideas we also shared here is like, I thought I was eating healthy until keep a track of my food intake changed my life. Now we also explained the ad type. So in this case, it was a testimonial plus tutorial style UGC. And then the product in this case was like an app, a fitness app. So what that looks like in a more specific level, again, once we create the angles, is we brief our script writers within ClickUp. So we use ClickUp for briefing. And as you can see, like, you know, people might see a, you know, 60-second ad, right? And they might praise the creator. All these visuals are amazing. Like, we love like the ad, but what makes it scale, what drives like unlock scale is really the research behind it. So behind 60-second ad, this is the entire research that we do and like the process that goes into it. So this is basically once these strategists come up with the angles, this is how we brief our script writers, which sole purpose is to develop the scripts. So again, they don't have to think about, you know, the onboarding. They don't need to think about the research. They only have to, you know, use their copywriting skills, script writing skills to develop the angles the way our strategists told them to do, right? So here we'll give them a link to a product page. We tell them what's the angle of this, the brief that we are developing. Also give them some guidance. So you need to do 2 alternative hooks. When writing the scripts, imagine the creator is talking to his friend over the video call and they're having a conversation. Cut the fluff, try to make the scripts as direct as you can, and also more specific directions, for example, in terms of like the visual. So try to use as much B-roll clips as you can related to the talking points and minimize the use of faces, right? So this is another really good point that people can take away from this. Using more B-roll instead of having like the talking ad where there's like the creator. So yeah, I hope this makes sense. Do you have any question, anything you want to add, Alex?
Yeah, so I have a few. So first, one of the things you mentioned a few minutes ago is that, some of the scripts, that everyone tries to copy, each other, right? It's like you look at you look at your competitors, you do what they do, they look at you, like they do what you do, right? And so everyone copies each other. And you mentioned one thing about like testing totally new angles. So just want to share kind of like our experience. Like oftentimes we would find these like new angles from like reading comments on Facebook ads, like on TikTok ads, because sometimes the person would ask a question, right? Like, or it would be pretty much like the objection about the product. And that objection, like we often turn into very like high performing hook, because literally we are meeting people at their like level of the awareness, and overall like observing your like reviews, observing your comments, observing your even tickets for the customer support can give you many ideas of the new angles that you want to you can use. By utilizing this and by maximizing the number of those hooks, and just keeping your eyes open all the time about the comments, the tickets, like the reviews, you'll be able to maximize like the scale that you are achieving.
Totally, and I totally agree with you. And that's the thing, like, to really scale, you need to unlock new angles, and that's just a fact. You can keep iterating on winning angles that have always been working for you and achieve a certain level of performance, but to really scale up, like find completely unlock new markets, you need to unlock new angles, and for that you just need to like go back to the drawing board and see what you can come up with, right? So yeah, I totally agree. So just to kind of continue, like here, we would obviously something you also talked about is the level of the level of the type of audience. So in this case, they're a problem-aware audience. We are very specific about that, understanding what the stage of awareness of the customer. So we will have certain elements and not have others. And also the structure of the script. This is important. So direct responding is like really at our core. So we use a specific structure of the script based on the research. So in this case, we want to first present the problem, then agitate the problem, introduce the solution, and before and after, feature and benefits, educate/handle objections. So again, this is super specific, and this is what our strategist does. And also token points/visual points for the problems, this and that. And based on this, the script writers will then develop the scripts. And I'll show you an example of what a script looks like right here. So this is an example of a script, right? So we would have the baseline text and then the baseline visuals. So you would have the baseline text and then the baseline visuals is very important, because we see that also, sharing only text stuff with clients, sometimes they can really understand the way we envision the final ad to look like. That's why we always add. We also include like some visuals just to give them some reference. So we have the the text. So for the hook, body 2, body 3, and then baseline visuals. And again, this is based on the formula, right? So going back here, looking at this framework, right? Problem, agitate, solution. Obviously, this is a different script. Like this research, documents are not related to the script that I'm showing you, say from different clients. But we would have like the formula here. So in this, we have outcome, problem or journey, solution, before and after. So here we also have some additional, visuals. So there's some things that we include to have like, if you want to have more variations, we might include visual 2, visual 3, visual 4. But yeah, that's pretty much the process we use for scripting.
When working with creators, like what have you found? Because on one side of this, right, and that's like probably more like for the organic, like you want to give them the freedom, right? Like they're like creators. For that reason, you want to give them the freedom, kind of like communicate the value of the product in their particular way, their particular voice, kind of like their own like creativity. For this, right, and specifically for direct response UGC content that works, you prefer to have kind of like more scripted. You have to say exactly this in this particular way, frame by frame, kind of like very, very scripted, right?
Correct. And yeah, and there's like yeah, and that's correct. The thing is that your creators also need to be extremely good, and so that's why we're not, we are not only putting the script on a pedestal. Every component of our creator process is like 10, if not 10 out of 10, it's like a 9 out of 10, right? So both the creator, the script, the research behind it, everything needs to be in place. You can have like a good script and a bad creator. You can have like a bad creator and a good script. If you really want to do things properly, everything needs to be in place. So yes, in our case, we don't let the creators script anything. All they do, they're pretty much just like a token face, right? They just have to execute the brief, and I'll show you in a second the exact brief that we share with our creators. But at the same time, they also need to be extremely good. They need to know, they need to have experience. They need to know like about lighting. They need to know about, have energy, right? Good energy. So they need to know their shit as creators. But we try to make their job as easy as possible by scripting the whole, brief and like not giving them too much choice, right? So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, this is the script process, and then based on this, we share this with the client. They can give us inputs. Okay, let's use this, and that, like, maybe brand guidelines if they have them. We can implement whatever, and then based on the scripts, we then create the full brief, which we then share with the creators, right? So I'll walk you through the whole thing. So as you can see, again, what most agencies do, they just take this, right, and share with their creators, which you can't do. But if you want to do things properly, if you want to really like make this process efficient, right, at scale, in a way we can really crank out a lot and produce a lot of UGC on like a regular basis. You need to like really streamline the entire operation, right? So that's why with this brief, we pretty much share this brief with both the creators and the editors at the same time, and we're able to get the finished creative. So first we start with the naming convention, right? So in this case, we have like the hypothesis, the concept, the variations that we're doing. And this is a training that we share with our the creators. So again, they can click here. It takes them to a Loom training that explains how we want the scenes to be shot. But most of the time, these people is already really good, so they don't even need to go through the training. But just in case, we have that there. And then we have some filming guidelines, again, more training on how to shoot the scenes. And then files organization. This is also very important because as I said, I didn't mention this, but their creators, all they do is they have to shoot the scenes. They don't have to do the editing. Yeah. So we collect the raw unedited footage and then share that footage with our editors. And that's why if you're not able to, make them like organize this footage properly, it becomes just like a headache. And you need to train them on like, you shoot the scene, name it this way, upload it in this place, and they just do it. So, we have a files organization training. This is like all Looms that we shot beforehand. And this initial part doesn't really change for any brief that we produce. It's just kind of copy and paste. What changes is then the actual script and the storyboard, right? So for this, we have general guidelines. Here we tell them, be full of energy when shooting the content. When shooting video, try to act as natural. These are like more like specific nuances for each brand. Maybe if you're producing content for a skincare brand, we tell them, hey, you don't wear too much makeup, right? Make your skin natural, wear makeup, stuff like that. So we have general guidelines, and then we get into the script. So give them an overview about the script, then write down the entire script word for word. And this is basically this part right here. So we just copy that and paste it in there. And then we go to the storyboard, which is really what takes things like to the next level in terms of really efficiency. And as you can see, we have 3 columns. So first we have the action/shot type, the line/audio type, and then the visual. So here we will tell them what type of shot we want. So it's either a B-roll, typically, or a talking head scene. So in this case, it's like a B-roll scene. And then the line that they need to say, again, this is pulled obviously from like the brief. But as you can see, we're putting like a more easy to digest and easy to execute way for them. So we put it here. So I used to believe that I could reduce like checks in, whatever. And then the visual description. So we used to, for this, this is basically just like a visual description of what they need to do in the scene. So here we used to have a picture, typically like a screenshot, but we've seen that that can limit their creativity because again, at the end of the day, they're the creators. We want them to shoot the scenes and like put their own creativity into it, as long as they follow our guidelines to the letter. So we have like a visual description, which gives them more ideas. They can, instead of maybe like doing the scene from this way, which they see in an image, they can do it like from different takes, and that gives us more content. And yeah, and basically all they have to do is, this is hook one, I'm going to shoot hook one, and this is what I need to do in the video, in the clip, and then this is what I need to say. So it's either a tokenized scene or a voiceover. And then for the voiceover, what we do is we make them record this whole thing as a tokenized video. And our editor just takes that video and extracts the audio file and then use that as a voiceover. So it's really, really straightforward. And typically, once we share this brief with our creators, we get the content in 48 hours from when this is shared. So it's very, very brief. And then our editors can put together the video with like an extra 24 hours. So again, the more time the time consuming part is really the research phase. After that's done, the production really doesn't take us long, right?
What is your process for finding these good creators that can deliver, and also for like pre-filtering the ones that do not?
Yeah. So first of all, what we when it comes to creators, we like to work with actors more than like just UGC creators that you find on TikTok, because again, they need to be good actors, right? They need to execute. Again, this process really resemble like a movie production where again you just do that's what you call it, production, post-production, right? So they need to be good actors in the first place because they're doing an act, right? They executing the scenes that we share to them, but they need to act, right? That's why we like to work with actors, and to do that, our go-to platform is Backstage. So going on Backstage, making a job post, we're looking for this creator in this country, this age group, this gender, right? Give them like a description of the product, of the brand, what they need to do. And we, find them that way. We also look on Twitter. Twitter is a great platform to, source good UGC actors. But most importantly is that we don't always source new creators. We tend to work with we have a network of around 30 to 40 people that we just work with consistently. Because again, we just need their really good acting skills. So we might have an actor that is working on a skincare brand, and then he's working on like a health and wellness brand, right? Across multiple brands. And if people think, oh, this is they might get recognized, it really doesn't. They don't get recognized. There's so many just people out there, so many ads running. That's never gonna happen. So yeah, so that's kind of what we do. We have this network, which I can give you more insight about. And again, it's really all about like building good relationship with these people, because at the end of the day, they're people as well. They want to get, as long as you compensate them properly, you communicate. I'm personally sometimes involved with our creators as well. I just reach out to them, see how they're doing, because I really want to retain talent. Once you find really good talent, you want to retain it. Because going through the sourcing process, obviously there's other outbound systems that we use as well. Like, going on TikTok, we have a whole, I can also share this with you later, Alex. We have a whole outbound process that we use to reach out to creators, completely automated, that VAs can implement. But again, once you find really good creators, just like make sure that you retain them, you make them happy, because they will, that will like really, it's like a really good investment, like the ROI is really high, right, on that. So I can give you more insight into the creators we work with right now. Just give me 1 second. But yeah, people think that creators obviously is a big component. My biggest suggestion would be, once you find good talent, retain that talent. And platforms is like Backstage, Twitter. You can also use outbound systems, but the principle is really like keeping them happy, making them work with them consistently. If you have clients, work with them with different clients. But yeah, let me show you this quickly. We have pretty much creators for every industry. So we have your typical Gen Z skincare creator. We have your millennial mom, 50-year-old mom. We have your boomer grandpa that is 60 plus, right? So it's really hard if you're selling like if your audience is older, like 60 plus. You'll know how hard it is to source UGC actors that are like old. And that's what I'm saying, like really retaining that client, that talent, because this, for example, these two creators, they're working with us across multiple clients that are like have an older audience, and that really saves a lot of headaches in terms of like sourcing new ones, right? So this is kind of like the crazy work with, and the benefits of working with like an internal network. Really make sure that you build a network is as the fast turnaround times, and they're extremely proactive. The more you give them work, the higher quality content they produce, and everybody is happy. They have great energy, acting skills, and experience, different ages, countries, and ethnicities, right? So very, very important. This is really, really key. And in terms of the keywords I've used, typically is I will suggest to build a personal brand on Twitter, where that way you can really get inbound creators. You can make like a job posting. We are looking for creators for this product. This is the age range. This is like the gender that we're looking for. And the hashtags I would use is UGC community, UGC creators, UGC creator needed, and you're gonna get a ton of inbound leads. Obviously, you need to go through like a vetting process. We also have like resources on that. We have like forms that we drive the traffic to, where they give us, you fill it out. We can see if they're actually good or not. But again, most of this is kind of like we don't really put effort in. We don't really do this because we work with the same actors, which are great, and we don't have to like do the hiring process over and over.
Let's say you have like a 7-figure, beauty brand, like health brand, and you want to build, internal like creative team. In what sequence would you hire people? Who would you hire in the first place? How much would you pay those people? And kind of like in what sequence would you build it up?
Yeah, so I have a resource on that. Maybe I can walk you through it. Yeah, so the first person I will look for is definitely a creative strategist, which is going to be the person leading, really helping you. If you're starting from, and this is just granted, if you're starting from scratch, you need to build this creative process in-house. You have no idea what you're doing. The first thing I would do is look for a creative strategist, which at the beginning can also help you with creators, can help you with, can do the scripting, right? So they must have a lot of skills, because at some point, once you want to like, completely remove yourself from the picture, they will be the one like really leading the whole operation. So the first person I will look for will be a creative strategist, and the skills that this person needs to have is definitely I would probably look for people that comes from a media buying background. You can there's creative strategists that come from either a creative background, so they were previously a content creator, and there's creative strategists that come from a media buying background, and they are marketers, dark response, avatars and stuff like that. So they need to be, they need to know how to look at data. So they need to be familiar with ad accounts. That's the first thing. They need to be able to recognize creative patterns. So, it's all about like really like looking at the patterns of like in the ad account of creators that you're testing and being able to recognize that and then like iterate over those. So they need to be good at recognizing patterns, and they also need to be good at team management. So there's more skills that obviously they need to have, but that's the first person that we'll look for. Creative strategist. Second person that I will look for is obviously like, at the same time, video editors, right? So that, they need to edit the videos. And also at some point bring on like script writers and like hiring more of those. So the way our team is structured, I think the easiest way would be to explain how our team is structured. We have creative strategists, script writers, video editors, designers, and then, content creators, which we don't really like consider a part of the creative team, but obviously they are a big part of it. But that's pretty much it, and obviously like project managers as well. But that's the biggest things. But this really starts with a creative strategist. That's the biggest role.
Creative strategist. Okay, can you so creative strategist, is that someone who kind of like, because this is like a new kind of like role that like emerging like in the media buying, like in e-commerce space. So creative strategist is someone usually who came from like media buying background, or more from like a video editing, more like creative kind of like person with like many ideas, or more like a structured data driven person. What have you seen kind of like working the best?
So yeah, this is basically the 3 essential skills of a great creative strategist. Really, if you want to do things properly, you will like look, really, make sure that you pay attention here, because if you hire the wrong person, it can backfire a lot. And if you hire the right person, the ROI will be amazing, right? So 3 essential skills of creative strategist. First, pattern recognitions, as I mentioned. Creative strategist will be a master recognizing creative patterns, both negative and positive ones. easier to spot in video ads, but and a bit harder in statics. But creative patterns are always there. If you're not good at recognizing patterns, it's going to be very tough. Second, the background, as you asked me, Alex. There's either the ones that come from a marketing background or a content creation background. Mm-hmm. And this is my opinion, but that's just I also prove this to be right, that visuals and platform trends are very important, but direct response is king. Direct response will never change. Marketing principles will never change. So it's very, very hard to teach somebody marketing principles from scratch, and it's easier to teach them the creative aspect, which can easily be acquired by just going through ad libraries. If you have foreplay, you can analyze a lot of competitors, so you can get that feel for what the creative elements I need to include. Yeah. But the advertising, the direct response, is very, very hard to teach, right? So if I have to pick, I would pick definitely a direct response first person, like a marketer, that becomes a creative strategist. Third, data analysis, right? How to come up with the creative concepts and angles. They should be looking at, as I mentioned, brand compilation and data. If they're not really good at looking at data, it's going to be hard, because it's very hard to teach somebody how to navigate through an ad account, like a Facebook ad account that is spending $500K, a month, right? They're just going to get overwhelmed. They don't know where to look. They don't know about the metrics. So if you're already familiar with that, it's way easier, right? So I would bring somebody on board that is used to looking at the data, because it's going to make your life easier. So this is pretty much it in terms of the creative strategist. Obviously, there's more skills, such as team management. At some point, they will need to know how to manage the team. They need to be proactive, obviously.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so creative strategist, what would you say is the compensation structure, the pay range for the creative strategists that you have seen?
So at the beginning, obviously, if you have capital, at the start, I would go with anything between $1,500 to $3K a month. If they're running, if you only have a brand, right, or they're managing multiple brands, I would probably go with $1,500 to $3K a month. And as they you spend more, things grow, or if you're an agency, they're managing more clients, obviously you can have more compensation. You can have compensations where if we scale this creative to X amount, you can start getting a percentage, right, of that. So there's a lot of compensations, but at the start, I would probably go with $1,500 to $3K a month USD. And then, but they're kind of the biggest, the most important role. So you want to compensate them. But at the same time, I would also I would test a bunch of people. So I would probably make them go through a test of 2 weeks, so you can have a lower compensation, see how they work but you need to you need to know how they should be working in the first place. I'm not saying that you should be a creative strategist yourself, but you should have some knowledge. That way you can see if what they're doing is actually right or wrong. But yeah, so I would work with maybe 2 to 3 people at the start, make them produce different kind of ads. And then you see who is the best, and then you just go from there, and you make that, you start working with that person more long term.
Which platforms have you seen? Can you find these people on Upwork in your experience? Online Jobs PH? Any particular countries where you have seen kind of the talent more predisposed to be good creative strategies?
Yeah, so I would say you can definitely look on Upwork. You can look on platforms like Twitter. Twitter is a really good platform for hiring talent. When it comes to really just D2C in general and direct response. So I would go on Twitter. I would also look on LinkedIn. But my biggest tip for hiring is just build your personal brand. Doesn't matter if you're a brand owner, doesn't matter if you're an agency owner, just build your presence, because that not only attracts business opportunity, it also attracts talent, right? And that's why I've been able to attract really good talent, because I have built my presence on LinkedIn. I guess that's how we got in contact in the first place, Alex. So yeah, that's how I'm able to attract talent. So you can make just a post, and people start reaching out to you, and also see the quality of the applicants that are kind of inbound. Inbound is higher than you reaching out to them and reach out to them in the first place. So that will be my first. That will be my suggestion. But the platforms is definitely Upwork, Twitter. I would say really Twitter and LinkedIn.
So what would you say is kind of the overall, let's say you want to have this in-house kind of creative team, right? How much would that cost you? So the creative strategies, like other like team members, like what would be the range of like maintaining the full like in-house creative team?
In terms of prices, maybe I can go on top of my head. I would probably say so for the script, the creative strategies, you are looking at 1,500 to 3K a month starting out, right? And so first, creative strategist, right? Second, editor as well. Because again, at the beginning, if you find a really good strategist, they can also do some editing at the start if you're just building this from scratch. So editor, I would probably look at 750 to 1,500 a month. It really depends, like how much what's the scope, how much you need them to work. But that's just kind of the ranges. So 750 to 1,500 a month. Then you want to have like a script writer. And what I would suggest at the beginning for people is to hire script writers on like a per brief basis. So you agree on like a certain price that you pay them for each brief that they develop. So for this brief, you write the scripts and then you do the briefing and the whole thing. I'll pay you $50 per brief that you produce, right? And that just kind of multiplies across how many briefs they're doing. Because again, at the beginning, you do want to test a bunch of people to find the best, right? And after that, you can really start thinking about just like getting them on a retainer. You can definitely hire people like right off the bat for like, a couple of grand, but like I would suggest to really like vet a few people at the start. So, scriptwriter, like I would say $50 per brief. And also for the editor, you can also agree on editor where like, okay, if you do like if you edit one concept and then you do 2 ad variations of that, so 3 assets in total, I'll pay you $75, right? So 50, let's say, per unique concept, or you can do like I'll do 50 per concept, and then for any extra variation, I can add $15 on top of it, right? I mean, change the hook, change the CTA. So that just kind of gives you like more flexibility starting out. And after they're really good, you can bring them like in-house fully, get them on a retainer, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, I hope people took notes, but creative strategist, editor, script writer, and then the project manager. Yeah, I would probably look at the same range of the editor, like 750 to 1,500 a month, maybe even a bit lower. And then what else do we have? Yeah, and the creators. So the creators, what we do is that we have like a specific price per brief. So for the raw unedited footage of a brief that I showed you, we pay our creators 125 USD, between 125 to 150 USD, and we have full rights over the footage. So there's no, they don't charge us additionally for the raw footage, right? Because we only need raw footage, right? So we get full rights over the footage, and then we also we have full usage right. So there's no limits on like, you can only use this content for 90 days. We have full rights over the footage for 150. You just shoot the scenes. We have like 20 to 25 B-rolls, and then we can use those to create variations, right? Because at the same time, like honestly, people just want to get paid, right? Even creators, you want to make sure that they get compensated. So if they can get more work from you recurrently, they're totally fine with like giving you like a ton of content without charging you extra for variations and stuff like that.
If someone wants to have your team do it all for them, like what would be the best steps? Like which brands is the best fit for? Where to like reach out to you and see if it's a good fit?
Yeah, definitely. So we like to work with brands that have some sort of foundations that ideally are spending already on paid. They're spending at least, I would say, between anything above 20K a month already. They're already testing creatives. They have some data that we can work with. Ideally brands that are selling the US market. That's the market we're most successful in. Also, like we are familiar with other markets, but that will be US is kind of we are more efficient in that market, and we like to work with different industries like health and wellness, like CPG, consumer packaged goods. We also work with home decor, clothing. So we are pretty scaled in all the industries. And in terms of getting in contact with me, you can reach me. You can check out our website. So check out some of our work if you like it or not. So check out sibaconsulting.com. So you can see some of our creatives. You can read more about our process. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Salif Sibane. So you can just type my name. You'll find me on LinkedIn. or you can reach me at salif@sivaconsulting.com. That's my email. Shoot me over an email, and then we can, I can see if you're a good fit working with us. One last thing that maybe I can add, I would say, if you're starting out just building your creative process, try to find people that is an expert in their specific field. So find editors that are already editing UGC, that are really good at it. Find creative strategists that have experience with creative strategies. Find creators that are really good creators. That makes your job so much easier, because also if you're starting out, you're not an expert in terms of creative strategy, right? So you want to find experts in different fields, and then they can help you, they can also help you level up yourself. And after that, you can hire more talent, better talent, and go from there. So that would be another suggestion that I have.
For sure. Thank you, Salif. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will have the Salif contact information if you want to reach out and see if it's a good fit for you to work together. Other than that, just take advantage of the resources and